So first of all, one of I wanted to do, because I think this is quite funny, this is about people's perception of progress when it comes to gender equality. So 74% of the guys who responded said, yes, loads and loads of progress, absolutely, we're there. Whereas only 48% of the women who replied that there had been progress. When we asked about what was the most significant barrier to women's career progression, 52% of people said that was unconscious bias. When we ran this survey, similar survey, about 5 or 6 years before, the answer then was the lack of flexible working. So perhaps things have changed and moved on in that regard. But unconscious bias is really challenging because it's, it isn't about the policy, it's what goes on in here and in here. However, it's probably a good thing that people recognise the term, because unconscious bias is all about awareness raising. 46% of people felt that it was about traditional networks and routes to promotion being male orientated, and a number of law firms where it's still the only way of engaging with clients. Business development is all around sports or drinking, which is obviously not just excluding for women, but people from other protected characteristics quite often. And some of the answers, some of the things that need to be done about this are really quite simple as well. And we've got some of the solutions here. So I'm conscious of time, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what else we're doing, but I am very happy to send anybody the survey and the other documents, which I'll tell you about now. So we've got all of these insights from the survey. And then for the qualitative research, we undertook this through, are undertaking it through roundtables. So over this summer, we have completed over 200 women in leadership in law roundtables. And those roundtables had two purposes. The first was to get that understanding of what women's experiences are in 2018, and I can tell you I've facilitated about 40 of them myself, and some of the stuff is Chatham House rules, so some of the stuff that we heard was quite frankly illegal, let alone not best practice, and this is not just in tiny firms, this is across the board. There is an enormous amount that we need to do here. But the roundtables had a second, equally important purpose, and that was to empower women to become leaders and change makers in their organisations. And to that end, we created a toolkit. We've engaged with about 3,000 women over the summer, domestically and internationally as well. So wherever I've travelled, we've done roundtables. And we've asked these women to commit to at least doing one thing in this toolkit, one thing to shift the dial. And we're going to assess the impact of what they've been able to do in a sort of 6-month period. And it'll be really interesting to see, because if it was easy, we would have done it by now. This is not easy. But the areas where we asked people to become activists around unconscious bias in relation to gender and equal pay, women's history, which I talked about, global sisterhood, which is another campaigning concept, but also around engagement with men, because we really do need, if you go back to my original stat about 86, 7, 8% of the decision makers in law firms being men, we really do need to get male champions here, get men on board and taking responsibility to getting us to a position where we have gender balance, and what's really not to like about that. So we kicked off about 2 or 3 weeks ago our men's roundtables. And again, the same methodology and the same idea to get that frank discussion with male leaders, male decision makers, and then to move on to commitments to activism. We also have commissioned academic literature review, which is again an international piece of work, and we'll pull all of these insights together and put out our report for International Women's Day. We're going to take it, the Law Society has ECOSOC status with the UN, so we're going to take it to the UN Commission on the Status of Women and report to that. And we're also holding, as a date for your diary, the 20th and the 21st of June, we're going to be holding an international symposium there, where we're going to have Helen Kennedy, the Lord Chancellor, a couple of celebs who are going to come and talk to us in a whole 2 days of really investigating this. And at that point we're going to have our final set of toolkits, which is everything that we've learned that works and how to do that. So, the 10 things that in any organisation, whether it's a law firm, an academic institution, barristers' chambers, and actually this applies for any sort of organisation, the 10 things that if you do it, and this is how to do it, will actually make a huge difference. And not just for gender balance and gender equality, but it opens it up really for all other types of equality as well. So that's what we're up to there. And I'm conscious, and I'm going to stop. I could talk about access to justice, but I'm really conscious that I've spoken for nearly an hour now. We have had some questions in it, so I don't feel about that. Yes, sorry.
What do you think would you rate as success for changing the amount of men? Would you give yourself 2 years, 5 years, look at the whole thing again?
Well, Ipsos Mori did a piece of analysis for International Women's Day this year, and what they sought to understand through an economic analysis is when we would reach gender parity in terms of pay. And they assessed that would take 217 years on the current state of progress. So a couple of years, yeah, exactly. So a couple of years, I mean, I would very much hope that we can evidence what works and then get that out there broadly in our community, and we're working with other communities, particularly in banking and finance and the insurance industry, other professional services, but this has broad ramifications. So
Thank you.
I hope so. Sorry, yes.
We have got the roaming mic, so.
Hello, my name's Teresa Skelton, and I run I wasn't the founder member, but it's called the Hampshire Police Monitoring Group, and it's that statement there, access to justice. People of low status haven't got access to justice. The biggest issue that I have is that people just cannot get disclosure. And talking about human judges, if a police officer goes into court, the judges seem to take what a police officer says at face value and what the person's saying isn't. Now, I know that's not quite with you, but it's women in leadership at the top. See, at the top of Hampshire Constabulary, you've got a woman, and at the top of the CPS, you've got a woman, but they're not acting honestly. You know, when I write to them, I say, well, can I have full disclosure? And you just can't get it. They back the ball from one to other. That's why now, when it comes to the police, because so many people have come into me telling me the police have committed perjury in court, the polygraphy, the polygraph test. I know a lady now who's taken a polygraph test against the evidence of the Chief Constable of Hampshire that proved she was non-deceptive. That means one of the two ladies that day must have committed perjury. But the judge just said he preferred the Chief Constable's evidence. For no reason. You know, so this is what's happening. You take an oath, I promise to speak the truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth. If you've got a police officer that just lies, and the magistrates, because they're all posh people, the people I deal with are a bit, I don't know, like myself, common sort of like, don't talk poshly, but I have got a first class degree. I did come here and get one, so I know I'm educated, although I haven't come from the background, but it's enormous what I do. But it's so soul-destroying when somebody gets a polygraph test against the Chief Constable to prove that the Chief Constable of Hampshire has committed perjury in court. I mean, what's your profession? No, but this is what I want. Yeah, there is. What the question is about polygraphy in the justice system. You know, if that's all that's left for people, what would lawyers say? Yeah, you know. Because people can't afford money. They haven't got the money to buy justice, and I know somebody who is completely innocent can't afford it.
Yeah.
You know, that it's so sad.
So you raised some really interesting points there. I have a real concern about access to justice in this country, and inevitably that impacts upon the vulnerable and the disempowered most. And the trouble is, if we look at the criminal justice system, unfortunately it's been completely starved of funding for such a long time that this has really impacted upon the ability of solicitors to particularly when it comes to disclosure and being able to look at the enormous amount now of digital evidence that comes or can come, should come before the court, and we've had some highly publicised cases recently where had the digital evidence of texts or phone messages or social media being properly assessed at the time, disclosed and assessed, then it would have had a very different outcome in relation to the court hearing. So I'm completely with you in that. I think two things, if I may. One is that we need to ensure that we have a properly funded justice system. When it comes to criminal justice, actually, not all access to justice is about access to a lawyer. But it actually is with criminal justice. You need that experienced representative, whether you're in the police station or whether you're in the magistrate's court or the Crown Court. And so you need those people around, and the system, unfortunately, at the moment is falling apart, whereby we know we did a big piece of report, we did a big report about this, gathered all the evidence, which shows that in 5 to 10 years' time, there are not going to be many criminal defence solicitors because there's a very ageing population. And so there's a big problem there. But also I would say that we should be looking at some technological solutions here, because it's really challenging with millions of documents, let us say, for humans to be able to go through all of that information. So I do think there is a role for technology in supporting proper access to justice.
Would that be the pornography test?
I don't know about that. I'm no expert on that, I'm afraid.
I think that's all you've got. That's what you've got to go to court with now. Because if a judge is just going to believe a police officer, you know, we're all doomed. You know, as I said, I don't personally blame the Law Society, but there is a failure here. I'm just inundated. I can't cope with the amount of people that come to me saying, oh, the police have refused this, the police officer. And as I said, I sat in the court where the Chief Constable committed perjury for 45. It was damn obvious. It was obvious. She even forgot her basic notes. She said, yeah, but this is...
My point of view.
Yeah, but this is...
All right, sorry. But you know, what I'm saying is, people lower down definitely need help. So that's what I'm asking you for. Could you not ask someone in your own profession not to charge so much? You know, if you're charging thousands, they just won't be able to get justice. Okay.
Okay, and I've asked Krista, I've asked you for help, so I'll be getting in touch with you. If I can learn it, I can help people. Thank you very much.
We're running out of time. Do we have other questions that are coming in?
I just wanted to ask, is there going to be further information about the access to justice? How is that?
Well, I was going to talk about criminal defence, which but also about early intervention, which I think is absolutely key, and it's another big campaign. The way we run things at the Law Society is that we get independent academic or economic analysis. So it's robust research, and we build a campaign on that, and we did that with early intervention. So, because it makes sense, doesn't it, that if you get help at an early stage of your legal problem, and let's say it's a family problem or it's a problem around a housing matter, you get it sorted out before things escalate. It's going to save you as the individual a lot of time, perhaps costs, certainly heartache potentially if it's a family law matter, and it also means that it saves the state knock-on costs. And we got evidence to show that access to professional expert advice at the early stages means that you have those positive benefits and you don't have the negative ones. And so this campaign we've been running for quite some time. We've had a lot of support actually in Parliament for it, and it's that sort of thing that we're trying to just push to say this is obviously in the benefits of society to do this. The Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act, the LASPO Act, is under review at the moment with the government. It's a sort of 5-year on review which they had promised, and we are hopeful that we may be able to prevail and convince that there should be help and support at early stages. As we all know, it's a fairly noisy time in politics at the moment, so there is little that is getting much attention. I promise not to mention the B word. And nonetheless, we're trying very hard to push this argument around early intervention, around a properly supported system, around the fact that pro bono, although I opened with it and we're really proud of it, it is no substitute for a properly funded legal aid system, and we will continue to do that as long as we can. And the only thing I can't guarantee you is success, but I can guarantee you will keep trying.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions. I think it would be very kind to give a round of applause. Hugely interesting presentation. Hugely worthwhile work the Law Society currently doing. I just wanted to pass over to Neil Marriott, our Deputy Vice Chancellor, for a brief thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Joy Carter, who can't be with us this evening, she's in London, it falls from me to just say thank you very much for coming down today. Interestingly, I am the only male member of the senior management team of this institution. Almost 70% of our students are female. I think personally, my own reflection is it's great to see a joint event between the centre and the students. I think it's marvellous, and I hope we continue in the future of more of these events. It's really good thing to see. And apart from thanking you, thank you for coming this evening. We've got members here from the faculty, we've got students, and members from the local legal profession, which is really good to see. So thank you very much for coming. It's not the best of evenings, so that might affect numbers, but I think we've had a really good talk, and it's been certainly very interesting for me sitting there. It's quite interesting. I saw a piece on social media actually, which was saying about the theory of 6 degrees of separation. And it was quite interesting. So apparently on Twitter, they've worked out that it's only 3.43 degrees of separation, because they've analysed all these conversations that go on and whose friends who go and everything else. What's worrying about that is how the hell do they get the data to do the study? Because I'm worried about how they do it. So I do see the need, certainly see a need for the legal profession to protect individuals and their data and how it's used. I'm actually from another profession. I'm an accountant from my sins. I was former president of the British Accountants Association, so I've been in your shoes. We're a much more light-hearted bunch, I think, as accountants.
Really?
Yeah. We say that there's only 3 types of accountants: those that can count and those that can't. I'm giving my other accounting joke, which is what you say if 50 lawyers go off a cliff in a bus. You say it's a pity about the 2 empty seats. No, no, I think for me it's been a really interesting, because the growth of technology influences all professions, and certainly AI, etc., machine learning in particular, does have implications for all of us. In my own profession, we've had to learn to cope with technology far early on. It took a lot of the tedium away from some of the roles which you described, analysis of paperwork. It certainly improved efficiency, it certainly improved accuracy. What it didn't do is it didn't remove the need for people, because at the end of the day, it's people that we're dealing with. They are clients, and managing your clients' expectations, needs, etc. are so important. And I think it's by focusing that on the human skills needed to be a profession that you have a sustainable profession, you know, an environment that irreplaceable profession. That's what I think I've heard this evening. So thank you, Christina, for coming all this way. You've got a busy schedule, chairing meetings than I do, which is saying something. So thank you very much for spending the time to come with us. Hopefully we'll see you maybe at another time. And may I wish you good luck in the centenary race next year on down Chancery Lane. So, please, once again, thank you very much for welcoming Christina here. I've certainly enjoyed myself this evening, and I'm an accountant, so thank you very much. I think there is an opportunity upstairs for as much crisps as you can eat. So please enjoy that. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes. Hi, I'm B.
Yes.
Yes, I'm good, thank you.